Stop what you are doing right now and stay with this until the very end, because what you are about to feel is not just another confession. It is the exact moment everything changed between Soo Kai and Tan Songyun, and if you listen closely you will understand why his words did not just go viral. They revealed something so raw, so real, that no one watching could look away once it began. It did not start in a dramatic setting.
There were no flashing lights.
No audience waiting for something unforgettable. Just a quiet moment that no one expected to become anything more than ordinary. Soo Kai stood there, calm on the outside, but something in his expression was different. Not visible to everyone, but noticeable to those who paid attention to the smallest details. The way he hesitated before speaking. The way his eyes did not wander. The way the silence before his words felt heavier than it should have. Tan Songyun noticed first. Not because he said anything, but because she felt it. That shift in energy. That subtle change that happens when someone is about to say something they can no longer keep inside. And when he finally spoke, everything slowed down. Not in reality, but in the way the moment was experienced. As if time itself had decided to pause and listen.
His voice was steady.
But there was something beneath it. Something that could not be hidden. Something that made every word feel more important than the last. He did not begin with a long explanation. He did not build up to it. He went straight to the truth. The kind of truth that people avoid because it carries risk. He told her how he felt. Not casually, not lightly, but deeply, completely. In a way that left no space for misunderstanding. And then came the words that changed everything. He asked her not to break his heart. Simple,
direct,
but powerful in a way that no one expected. Because those words did not just express love. They revealed vulnerability. The kind that cannot be hidden behind confidence or success. The kind that shows exactly how much someone is willing to risk. The reaction was immediate, not from the outside world, but from her. Tan Songyun did not respond right away. She could not. Because moments like that do not allow for quick answers. They demand reflection. They demand honesty. They demand courage. Her silence was not rejection. It was understanding. The kind that comes when you realize the weight of what has just been placed in front of you. Soo Kai did not look away. He did not try to fill the silence. He remained there, present, waiting, not for a perfect answer, but for a real one. And that made the moment even more intense, because it showed that this was not about control. It was about truth. Tan Songyun finally moved, not dramatically, just enough to show that she was no longer standing at a distance from what he had said. Her expression softened, not into certainty, but into something deeper, something that suggested she felt the same weight he had just revealed. She spoke slowly,
carefully,
as if every word needed to be placed exactly where it belonged. She acknowledged his feelings, not dismissing them, not avoiding them, but accepting them for what they were.
Real.
And that acceptance created something powerful. Not a resolution, but a connection. The kind that does not need to be defined immediately to be understood. The moment did not end with a clear answer. There was no instant decision, no perfect conclusion. But there was something far more meaningful. An opening. A space where something real could grow. Where fear and hope could exist together without canceling each other out. And that is what made it go viral. Not the words alone, but the truth behind them. The vulnerability. The authenticity. The rare moment where someone allowed themselves to be seen completely. People who watched felt it. Not as a story, but as something personal. Because everyone understands what it means to risk their heart, to ask someone to hold it carefully, to hope that what you feel is returned, but also to fear what happens if it is not. Soo Kai's words did not just belong to that moment. They belong to everyone who has ever felt the same way. And that is why they spread. Not because they were dramatic, but because they were real. The final scene did not come with a decision. It came with a look. A quiet understanding between two people standing at the edge of something that could change everything. And in that moment, nothing needed to be said, because everything had already been understood. So, this is not the end of their story. It is the beginning of something uncertain, something fragile, something real. And now the only question that remains is this. When someone gives you their heart and asks you not to break it, do you step forward and hold it carefully? Or do you step back and protect yourself from what could happen next? If this moment made you feel something real and you want to see what happens next, make sure you subscribe, like this video, and share it with someone who understands that love is not just about feelings. It is about courage, because the next part of the story might reveal whether they choose to build something lasting or walk away from something unforgettable. The moment his words settled into the silence between them, everything changed in a way neither of them could take back. And if you stay with this until the very end, you're going to understand why what Soo Kai said to Tan Songyun did not just create a moment. It created a turning point that would define everything that came after. For a few seconds, nothing moved. Not the air. Not the space around them. Not even the thoughts racing through their minds. Because when someone says something that's real, the world does not respond immediately. It pauses. It waits. It allows the weight of those words to settle before anything else can happen. Tan Songyun felt it first. That weight. Not as pressure, but as something deeper. Something that made her realize how much had just been placed in her hands. Soo Kai did not look away. He did not try to soften what he had said. He remained exactly where he was. Because he understood something important. That once you speak from that place, there is no way to take it back. And more importantly, there is no reason to. The silence stretched longer. But it was not empty. It was filled with everything that had not yet been spoken. Everything that still needed to be understood. Tan Songyun finally stepped closer. Not a dramatic movement. Not something meant to create a reaction. But enough. Enough to show that she was not stepping away from what he had just given her. Her eyes met his fully this time. Without hesitation. Without distance. And in that moment, something shifted again. Not outside, but between them. She spoke quietly. Not because she was unsure, but because the moment did not need loudness. It needed honesty. She told him she understood. Not just his words, but what it took for him to say them. She acknowledged his feelings. Not as something surprising, but as something she had sensed long before he spoke. And that changed everything, because it meant this was not one-sided. It meant this moment had been building for both of them, in different ways, at different times, but leading to the same place. Soo Kai's expression softened, not with relief, but with recognition, because being understood is sometimes more powerful than being answered. But she did not stop there. She continued, carefully, honestly. She admitted something that made the moment even more intense. She said she was afraid. Not of him. Not of what he felt. But of what could happen if she allowed herself to fully step into it. Because when something feels real, it also feels risky. And risk is something people do not take lightly when it involves their heart. Soo Kai listened, without interruption, without trying to fix her fear. Because he knew that fear is not something that disappears when someone tells you to let it go. It is something that changes when it is understood. So instead of answering immediately, he took a step closer. Not to close the distance completely, but to meet her where she was. And then he spoke again. Not repeating what he had said before, but deepening it. He told her he was not asking for certainty. He was not asking for promises. He was only asking for a chance to prove that what he felt was not something temporary, not something fragile, but something worth taking the risk for. Those words did something unexpected. They did not remove her fear, but they changed how it felt. It became something she could face instead of something she needed to avoid. The moment shifted again, not into resolution, but into possibility. And possibility is where everything truly begins. Days passed, not in dramatic changes, but in quiet ones. Messages that carried more meaning. Conversations that lasted longer. Moments that felt intentional instead of accidental. Tan Songyun did not rush into a decision. She allowed herself to feel everything fully. The fear, the hope, the uncertainty. And slowly, something began to change. Not around her, but within her. She realized that avoiding the risk would not protect her from heartbreak. It would only prevent her from experiencing something real. And that realization led to the final moment. Not planned, not rehearsed, just real. They stood together again. Not in a quiet pause this time, but in a moment that felt clear, certain in a way that did not need explanation. She looked at him, and this time there was no hesitation, no distance, no uncertainty in her expression. She told him she was willing to try, not because she was no longer afraid, but because what she felt was stronger than the fear she carried. Su Kai did not react with excitement. He did not rush forward. He simply smiled, a quiet smile, the kind that comes from understanding rather than winning, because this was never about convincing her. It was about standing with her until she could choose for herself. And she had chosen. Not perfection, not certainty, but something far more powerful. A chance. The story does not end with them defining what they are. It ends with them stepping forward together. Not knowing exactly what will happen, but knowing that they are willing to find out. And sometimes that is the most real ending of all. So now the only question that remains is this. When you are given the chance to experience something real but uncertain, do you protect yourself from what could go wrong? Or do you take the risk and discover what could go right? If this story made you feel something real and you want to see what happens next, make sure you subscribe, like this video, and share it with someone who understands that love is not just about feeling safe. It is about being brave enough to take the risk.